The Let's Go Live button, which means we've got to wait for the stream to fire up all across the fruited plain of the internet before we go ahead and get started. Make sure we're nice and situated over here. Got to make sure the tubes are working before we start popping off at the mouth over here. And it looks like things are alive and well, so let's go ahead and get started, shall we? Hello, my friends, and welcome back to yet another episode of Watching the Watchers Live, the show that spotlights misconduct involving police, prosecutors, and politicians. My name is Robert Gouveia. I am a criminal defense attorney, and today we are talking about Kevin McCarthy dropping in on the Impeachment Inquiry. It's being launched, and so we're going to go through this in some detail today. He made the announcement this morning. A lot of people very excited about it, and of course, yours truly. I'd like to see some action from our Congress, especially in light of all of the corruption and criminality that we've been observing here for a long time. But the question is this going to do anything? Is this going to go anywhere? Is this just all smoke and mirrors? We're going to go through it. We've got a lot of statement here, so we'll actually listen to just a bit of Kevin McCarthy. He spoke for about, I think, just about 5 minutes. Got about 3 minutes of it here that we'll go through. And he's going to be handing this whole thing off to the Republicans that we're very familiar with. James Comer, Jim Jordan, and Jason Smith. Oversight, Ways and Means, and the Judiciary are all going to be leading this impeachment inquiry. And so we'll see exactly what they say. They had a statement that they published in response to this. Then I want to go over to the Democrats and see what they say about this. This is Ian Sams. We've talked about him a lot. He is White House counsel, and so he's posting all over the place. He's saying, how can they do this? This is all just politicized. They've got no evidence of anything. Old Joe Biden is as innocent as can be. And so we'll see what he had to say about it. Jamie Raskin took his do-rag off, and so I don't know what's going on with the cancer, if that's back or gone or whatever, but he's looking like he's got a nice head of hair there. Anyways, he's back. Hopefully he's doing okay. But he is reacting to this impeachment stuff, saying that this is all basically because Trump wants company. And he's saying, you know, Trump's been impeached twice, and he just wants somebody else to be impeached. And we're all thinking to ourselves, like, yeah, that's how the game is played now, isn't it? I mean, hopefully he gets indicted 4 times too. At some point, we'll see if that ever happens. But yeah, 2 different impeachments and 4 indictments. And that's going to be a fair game, I think. So we'll see what he says about this. We have this person, I think he's a person, Fetterman. He comes out and he communicates to us. And he says something. We're going to try to parse together what he's trying to convey to us. But he's communicating in Democrat or something. Very interesting clip as he responds to what's happening. We also got Chuck Schumer, who is reacting as well. And, you know, he brought up this interesting phrase. He says, this is nothing but a witch hunt. It's a witch hunt. And we have all heard that phrase before. And so it's just like deja vu. We're living in bizarro world. The Democrats who have been behind the witch hunts are now complaining about being the subject of a witch hunt. So we'll go through all of that. Then we've got some reaction over from Congress. Now, some people are very happy about this, all right, when we're going to go through this, but Representative Matt Gaetz is not, okay? He was on the floor of the House today talking about this impeachment, and he's like, yo, this is all way too little too late there, Kev boy, all right? We have been demanding for a lot more from you, and so you're just pulling this over to try to change the subject, kind of like to pull the wool over our eyes, and we don't appreciate that. And so there was this great post. This came over from Breitbart. I want to read through that. Joe Pollack put this together. He says, look, you know, as excited as we might be about this thing, they just might ignore it. The Democrats might ignore it, and they might use some actually Trump precedent to do that. So we'll talk about that. Marjorie Taylor-Greene is going to come out, give us her opinion of what happened today. And all that's going to be in the first segment as we get into impeachment inquiry season. We're looking forward to it. We love, you know, impeachment letters. I can't wait to read some impeachment inquiries. You know, Congress, Judiciary, this, that, and the other. We're going to see some serious keyboard activity out of Congress. So that should be fun. Then we're going to turn our attention to what Congress is currently doing with the Bidens. And a couple letters went out that I want to attend to. Some good stuff. We have the Oversight Committee, which is sending a letter to Secretary of State Antony Blinken. And this is the same Antony Blinken that was colluding with Mike Morrell from the CIA to cover up the Hunter Biden laptop, right? The same Antony Blinken. And so they're sending a letter to him specifically asking about Victor Shokin. Victor Shokin, as we know, was the prosecutor that Joe Biden made statements about. He said, I was, withholding $1 billion. I made the phone call, fire him or else. And we've got questions about what the State Department at that time was doing. People like Victoria Nuland and others. Did they really want to fire Shokin because he was a bad prosecutor? Because a lot of evidence doesn't seem to support that. Seems that Shokin was doing a great job investigating the corruption, just the wrong corruption. Came across Burisma. Hunter worked there. That's no good, so he had to go. So we'll do a quick timeline refresh on that. And then as we know, Hunter and his lawyers throughout this entire saga, as they were being investigated, they were actually threatening people like the IRS whistleblowers. And this is an insane type of a thing to think about, but you're a defendant and your daddy runs the Justice Department. You have so much leverage there. It's crazy. You could just start threatening people all over the place. What are they going to do? Complain to their boss, which is your dad? It's crazy. So Judiciary sent a letter over to Garland, Merrick Garland, and he's saying, look, Hunter's lawyers harassed the whistleblowers that were investigating him, okay? And you need to do something about this because it's insane. I need answers whether this is a conflict of interest if you didn't address it. So we'll go through that. Then we've got a clip from another, the Republicans were out in front of Congress today talking about reaction to this impeachment saga, but more specifically about the evidence about Shokin and what we're finding about the Biden crime family. And so we'll listen to this clip explaining what the House has. And then lastly, in our final segment, we'll talk about Big Fani, man. And Big Fani is funneling money over to her former mentor. This is pretty interesting. Her mentor was this guy, Nathan Wade is this gentleman right here. And apparently he was Big Fani's mentor for some period of time. And now he's getting paid hourly for his advice to Fani on prosecuting Trump, and he's racking up kind of a big chunk of money there. Hasn't been that much time that he's been providing advice, and it's something like over $500,000 that is going into his pocket. And people are asking a lot of questions about this, like, why doesn't she just have somebody who's already being paid by the government getting that money, right? Somebody who's already on salary. In other words, why is she bringing in some external source to act as a special prosecutor and then funneling him hourly wages? So we'll see what that story entails. Apparently they used to work together, and this guy was like staffing her office. He was mentoring her when she wanted to go start her legal career and all sorts of stuff. So of course he's getting a kickback that the Georgia taxpayers are paying for. We also saw out of Big Fani's jurisdiction that the grand jury report was released, the full report, and in the report they said a bunch of other people should be charged that Fani is not charging. And we're asking ourselves, why is that, right? Fani, if she's so interested in pursuing this to all ends of justice and finding out everybody, and it's a RICO case, massive conspiracy, multiple states, blah, blah, blah. Why are people like Lindsey Graham escaping criminal liability if the grand jury voted to indict him? Is Fani saying that Graham is innocent and endorsing his beliefs? Is she an election insurrectionist conspirator? I mean, if the grand jury said Graham should have been indicted and he wasn't indicted, why not? So we'll see. We also have Rudy. He filed a motion to sever this. He is trying to get his case separated from the other trials that are happening very soon. Kenneth Chesebro and Sidney Powell. They're scheduled for, I think, October 23rd. Going to be here like that, my friends. Make sure you're subscribed because we'll cover it. But we're going to go through that very short motion. He's just saying we're not going to have nearly enough time to prepare. Judge, please sever my case. And I'm not sure if that's going to happen or not. We'll see. We also have a quick update on what's happening out of New York. This is Alvin Bragg's prosecution. Looks like the trial on that case is going to be denied to happen now. They're going to postpone it, delay it, and just continue it out because of Trump's trial schedule. They're already prosecuting him too much. So the judge is going to agree to postpone it just a little bit. So as you can see, my friends, we've got a lot to get to today. I'm super excited that you are here and with us. Looking forward to digging into it. Big Fani updates, James Comer updates, and the McCarthy Impeachment Inquiry updates. This morning on our members only stream, we had a nice stream this morning talking about a lot of fun stuff. One thing we talked about that we don't have time to talk about here, but we talked about this morning, was about this new CIA whistleblower that has now emerged. And he is exposing the bribes that the CIA was allegedly paying to people who were in place on the team to go investigate where COVID came from. Would it come from the lab? Was it natural? So they assembled a team of 7 people. 6 of them came to one conclusion. The CIA didn't like that conclusion, so they paid them off to change it. Whistleblower came out and is reporting that. We read through all of that this morning. And so that segment will be out later. But if you want to catch that stuff when it's fresh right out of the oven, come and join us, watchingthewatchers.locals.com, or as a member on YouTube. We love to have our members. Thank you to our members. We try to deliver for our members. We do member-only morning streams. We do Saturday shows and some other fun stuff. We'd love it if you check this out, watchingthewatchers.locals.com. We've also got our brand new website, robertgovea.com. And you can go over here, sign up for our daily newsletter, and you'll get these show reports delivered to your inbox. If you want to read the news rather than listen to the news, because you can't get to it all, you can go to robertgovea.com, read all these reports, and just check out what is happening out there in the political sphere. And we also, before we get into the meat and potatoes on the day and get some heavy lifting done, we got to make sure we eat our greens and stay healthy and fortified with our friends at fieldofgreens.com, because we all would like to lose, as you know, those leftover pandemic pounds. We're all sick of the ads for the weight loss pills and the fad diets. You know, we've all been there. We've all done that, and they just don't work. But you know what does? Eating 5 healthy servings of fruits and vegetables a day. You do that, and the weight would probably just fall right off. But A, vegetables, and B, fruit. Who's got time to prepare that every day? Not me. Let's talk about Field of Greens instead. Now, Field of Greens is a science-backed formula. There are specific fruits and vegetables that you're not going to find in any other product. And I'd encourage you, just go take a look at the website, look at the label. You'll see there's a lot of good stuff in there. Proper nutrition reboots your metabolism so you burn calories faster and lose weight a healthier way. And Field of Greens is the only brand backed by a better health promise. Yes, you're going to look and feel healthier fast, but the greater proof is going to come at your next checkup when your doctor says, "Oh my goodness, you've lost weight." Whatever you are doing, keep it up. And so let's get you started. Go on over to fieldofgreens.com. Don't forget to enter in code Robert at checkout so you save 15% off when you use code Robert, courtesy of our friends at fieldofgreens.com. And let's not forget the vegetables want to be eaten. That's why they're here and they're happy and bursting with joy. I think there might be some clouds outside. This is the reason I was looking over here. The lighting changed in here, pretty dramatically. And anytime there is a cloud in Arizona, I'm wondering if we should just cancel the show. I don't know what's happening out there. It's like, oh my gosh, are we going to die? There's a cloud. Hopefully people aren't crashing their cars into each other out there. All right, so I'm just joking. Not really. Let's get to it, my friends. Impeachment Inquiry has been launched by Kevin McCarthy. Good news, we like to see some action and activity from our elected representatives, especially when we spend all day here talking about the corruption and criminality by the Bidens. So it's nice that we're seeing some action here, and certainly we're looking forward to reading all of the Impeachment Inquiry letters that get spread out all over the place. But the question is anything going to happen? This is, of course, the Republican Party. And there are some concerns about this. People like Matt Gaetz are saying this is all just smoke and mirrors. People like Joel Pollack over at Breitbart saying, yeah, there's not going to be a lot of teeth to this thing, but we'll see. And this might be the first step of a long litany of actions that the Republicans take. And I think that there will be a lot to this because, as Marjorie Taylor-Greene says, maybe the impeachment will go all the way up to the election. They'll just drag this thing out between now and November, which would be a great political strategy if we're being fair about this, because the Democrats are going to try the same thing by prosecuting Donald Trump 4 times if they can get to them all before the next election. So this is the first step. It is a shot across the bow. I think that they're seeing this now from the White House. Okay, here we go. It's impeachment inquiry season, and we're looking forward to it. But this is what McCarthy said when he was out communicating all of this to America in his surprise announcement today.
Conduct. Taken together, these allegations paint a picture of a culture of corruption. Now, here's what we know so far. Through our investigations, we have found that President Biden did lie to the American people about his own knowledge of his family's foreign business dealings.
Many times.
Eyewitnesses have testified that the president joined on multiple phone calls
Golf,
and had multiple
dinners.
interactions, dinners, resulted in cars and millions of dollars.
Diamond rings.
Into his son's business partners.
Text messages.
We know that bank records show that nearly $20 million in payments were directed to the Biden family members and associates through various shell companies. The Treasury Department alone has more than 150 transactions involving the Biden family and other business associates that were flagged as suspicious activity by U.S. banks. Even a trusted FBI informant has alleged a bribe to the Biden family.
I think that's the same guy who got paid $200,000 by the
Biden used
FBI.
his official office to coordinate with Hunter Biden's business partners
From his emails.
about Hunter's role in Burisma
And his
the
fake
Ukrainian
emails on top
energy
of that.
company. Finally, despite these serious allegations, it appears that the president's family has been offered special treatment
That's true.
by Biden's own administration. Treatment that not otherwise would have received if they were not related to the president.
No doubt about that.
These are allegations of abuse of power, obstruction, and corruption. And they warrant further investigation by the House of Representatives.
All right.
That's why today I am directing our House committee to open a formal impeachment inquiry into President Joe Biden.
All right. So on this point, there is a big split here because we have a situation where we just heard him say, I am directing the committee to open up the investigation, an inquiry, right? I have directed it, meaning there was no formal vote. Speaker of the House just came out and directed it. So what the left is going to say is that there is no force and effect of this because there was no full House vote. It's just somebody who unilaterally declared it. Now, what the right is going to say is, well, Nancy Pelosi did the same thing. All right. So don't act like Kevin McCarthy is just inventing this tactic. All right. They just made it up out of thin air. They didn't do a vote either. And now they're doing the same thing that the Democrats did. So what's good for the goose is good for the gander, as it were. But what we're going to see is that when McCarthy submits all of his impeachment inquiry requests over to the White House, they're going to say, you don't have the full force of Congress. You didn't vote this thing in. We don't have to honor what you are investigating because it's not an actual impeachment inquiry. And an impeachment inquiry, according to case law, says that there is more substance that the executive branch has to respond to that, not to the legislative stuff, but to the impeachment investigation stuff. The executive has to comply. So we're watching this, right? The mechanics of this are very interesting to see how it all happens.
This logical next step will give our committees the full power to gather all the facts and answers for the American public. It's exactly what we want to know.
All right, good.
The answers. I believe the president would want to answer these questions and allegations as well. This effort will be led by Chairman James Comer at the Committee on Oversight,
Nice.
in coordination with Chairman Jim Jordan for Judiciary Committee and Chairman Jason Smith on Ways and Means.
3 solid dudes.
Now, I do not make this decision lightly. And regardless of your party or who you voted for, these facts should concern all Americans.
They should. That's true.
The American people deserve to know that the public offices are not for sale, and that the federal government is not being used to cover up the actions of a politically associated family. Now, I would encourage the president and his team to fully cooperate with this investigation in the interests of transparency. We are committed to getting the answers for the American public. Nothing more, nothing less. We will go wherever the evidence takes us. Thank you very much.
All right, very loud. Okay, so as we see, that's the statement. Pretty short, pretty simple. He did the Biden routine, turn around, no questions, walked out of there, but he actually said some statements, so Biden is not capable of that. But he did come out and say, we're launching the inquiry, and I've directed the Oversight Committee and these other committees to respond. And here's what they've said in response to that. So they said, all right, Kev, thanks for the pass. We're catching the ball. The Oversight Committee is saying, since January, House Republicans have uncovered an overwhelming amount of evidence showing Biden lied to the American people about his knowledge and participation in his family's influence peddling schemes. Bank records, SARS, email, texts, witness testimony. It all reveals that Joe Biden allowed his family to sell him as, quote, the brand, Devin Archer said that, around the world to enrich the Bidens. And thanks to two brave IRS whistleblowers, Gary Shapley and Joseph Ziegler, we know that the DOJ, which has been sitting on much of the evidence, has prevented career investigators from pursuing information that could have led to Joe Biden. Right? And that's just a couple names of the people who've been involved, who have direct evidence of this obstruction. So based on the evidence, Comer, Jordan, Smith supports the opening of an impeachment inquiry and says our committee, Oversight, Judiciary, and Ways will continue to work to follow the facts to ensure President Biden is held accountable for abusing public office for his family's gain. The American people demand and deserve answers, transparency, and accountability for this blatant abuse of public office. So they're on the case, and we'll see where it goes. Now, this is all, very brand new, so I imagine we're going to start to see a whole strategy develop. But the Democrats are not real happy about this. White House counsel issued this response, and of course, they're using this line. It's always interesting to watch how the talking points start to materialize. But he says, will anyone ask Speaker McCarthy why an impeachment inquiry is the next logical step? Well, yeah. One reason would be it gives them more power to continue to investigate you, which we'll read more about in a minute. But the House GOP investigations, they say, have turned up no evidence of wrongdoing by POTUS. In fact, their own witness have testified to that, and their own documents have showed no link to POTUS, which is just a crazy thing to even say. Now, when you say something like no evidence of wrongdoing by POTUS, my question is, well, what would qualify for that? Again, we don't know what this means. We were asking ourselves, are they looking for a direct deposit into Joe Biden's bank account? Are they thinking somebody's going to find his Venmo transaction with emojis in there, with an airplane and oil, gas in there? Is that even an emoji? I don't even know. Do they think Hunter is going to be photographed handing Joe one of those big checks like you get and The Price is Right? Here you go. For Ukraine, Burisma, here's your half, Joe. Like, it's lunacy. What does that mean? No evidence. We've got text messages from Hunter saying my daddy is sitting right here. We've got photographs of him at business dinners with Devin Archer on golf courses. Phone calls, former FBI witnesses saying that, actually informants who were paid $200,000, all testifying that this was done in exchange for the firing of Victor Shokin. It's like the evidence is there, but they're going to gaslight us all the time. No evidence, no evidence, no evidence. And if you just reverse this, like if this was Donald Trump and Mark Meadows doing this instead of Hunter Biden and Joe, or if this was Trump and Jared or something, Trump and Don Jr. or something, you think they'd still say that's no evidence? Hey, I'm sitting right here next to Trump, and if you don't do this thing, Don Jr.'s, melting down, like Hunter was. You think they'd still say that's no evidence? I don't think so. Or Hunter saying that he paid for half the family's assets for 30 years. Things like that. Not to mention all the shell companies and all. Of course they'd say that's obviously insane. So he says, in fact, their own witnesses have testified to that, and their own documents show no link to POTUS. There's all sorts of links. We've already articulated those. He said that McCarthy already said weeks ago he'd move forward with an impeachment, an appearance in which he based his impeachment on non-existent obstruction of a non-existent request. Why no mainstream accountability for that falsehood? I don't even know what he's saying right there. But here he says, McCarthy is also being told that Marjorie, so he's saying that they're threatening to do impeachment. Opening impeachment without zero evidence is just right-wing attack fodder. It's just red meat. And it's just opening this up for creating baseless attacks, which is obviously nonsense because there's a whole book of the criminality that exists. And it would not have been allowed to happen. Hunter would not have been enabled and allowed to do all of that but for Joe Biden. Like, Joe Biden is the keystone of the entire criminal operation. But they're just going to keep gaslighting us and saying that this is still something for which there is no evidence. One person who carries on with this line of thinking is a Democrat called Jamie Raskin. And this is what he says about this. He was on with Meet the Press. And, he's got his hat off. He's been wearing this Prison Mike Durag because I thought he had cancer, and I don't know if he still has cancer or if he's recovered or what it is. Cancer is the worst, so I do hope him a speedy recovery. Glad to see the hats off as well. This is Raskin talking about
the fact that you've decided to take such an aggressive preemptive effort against this, is it somewhat of a recognition, though, that this could be or maybe already is a political problem for the president as it comes to the allegations against his son, regardless of the facts? Is it something that's just not going to go away on its own?
I haven't spoken to President Biden or the White House about what I'm doing. I just think it's a major dereliction of duty in Congress for the country to be facing all of these problems and for us not being cooperative and working together to try to address those problems. President Biden has reached out numerous times to the Republicans on the Infrastructure Act. I was there for 4 years. We had an infrastructure week, an infrastructure month, infrastructure day under Donald Trump. We just had no infrastructure bill. And Joe Biden brought us one in, I think, his second month in office, and we got it done. $1.2 trillion investment in the roads and the bridges and the highways and the internet and so on. Well, we can do that same kind of work. Why would we want to drag ourselves down into impeachment over a non-scandal? And I think it's because Donald Trump, who's obviously running for president, doesn't want to be the only guy on the ballot who's been impeached before.
And so what?
But he was impeached.
And so what? I don't even care about this point. Honestly, they keep bringing this up. I think that was kind of where Ian Sams was going with this. He's like, the Republicans are making this all political, and we're at a state in this country where we're above politics. I don't know that that's the case anymore. Do you think that all of the independents out there are taking a look at all of the Trump prosecutions and saying to themselves that is 100% apolitical and that those are okay, but that the Republican response, which is a minor impeachment, it's like opening a breeze. It's an impeachment inquiry. Okay. The Democrats have knives and swords and shotguns, and they've got flamethrowers and bazookas and all sorts of stuff. And they're just lined up and they're just lobbing them all day. All right. And the Republicans are emerging from their playpen with their little chew toys. And they're like, we've come to a conclusion. We're going to investigate the Democrats after nap time. So, and that is going to be something that repels the independents. I just can't imagine that. I mean, we're living in a hyper partisan environment now. And if the Republicans don't respond in kind, then they're just going to continue to get steamrolled. So I'm not sure I buy this. So what if it's weaponized, if it's a politicized impeachment? That's the whole point.
Impeached for good reason. He incited a violent insurrection against the union as determined by the House of Representatives and in a 57-43 vote over on the Senate side.
So you guys, that was his fake committee that he was referencing, the January 6th committee, which was fake. It was illegally constituted by their own rules, and anybody can look that up. HR 503 said the J6 committee should have had 13 members. It never did. Should have had 5 Republicans. Never did. The House minority, the Republicans didn't appoint Cheney and Kinzinger. Pelosi did, right? So it's all illegitimate, but he's got his talking points down really good. And the House of Representatives impeached him, or found out that he was responsible for an insurrection. And that begs the other question. Did you hear him say that again? Man, I hate when I hear stuff like that. So he says the House of Representatives have already found that he's already committed violent insurrection. This keys me off on the 14th Amendment thing, because it says in the 14th Amendment, Congress shall have the mechanism to enforce this. He's going to say that they've already done it. They've already found him to have committed violent insurrection. So watch this argument come out. We're going to watch this come out. They're going to say Congress has already come to this conclusion that he's already committed a violent insurrection, and therefore the 14th Amendment justifies his removal. Here it is one more time.
But he was impeached for good reason. He incited a violent insurrection against the union as determined by the House of Representatives and in a 57-43 vote over on the Senate side.
Yep, that's going to be their evidence for Congress has already acted. Because what we're seeing on the 14th Amendment, and I did not mean to digress into 14th Amendment stuff right now, but the 14th Amendment is currently being debated, and they're saying that the left is saying that it's self-executing, that it can just execute itself. That's obviously going to be nonsense, right? Nobody is going to believe that happens. But Raskin is already laying the framework with those 2 sentences. that Congress has already made a finding of insurrection in the House of Representatives and confirmed by the Senate. Okay. He's going to say, boom, boom. Those are the two things sufficient to say Congress did it. We're going to come back to that. All right. So, all right. Now, that's Raskin. He's articulating, he's telling us where he's going. Now, this person. I think this is John Fetterman. Some people have questions about it. Who is this guy? Nobody knows who he is, kind of, what's going on in his head, what he's doing. But they asked him if he had reaction to Joe Biden's new impeachment inquiry. And as just a tremendous representative of the people of Pennsylvania, he's going to communicate what they think.
I asked you about this news that Speaker McCarthy has formally launched an impeachment or has said he's going to.
Oh my God, really? Oh my gosh,
You okay?
It's devastating. Ooh, don't do it. Please don't do it. Oh no, oh no.
We gotta run back to the office, but
It's a U.S. Senator, my friends. What? Look what he's wearing, man. Look what he's wearing. And even his staffer is like, what is happening right now? Okay, this poor staffer. Watch his body language. Watch this guy's body language. And I think he gets panicked. He's like panicked that he even stops. He catches him. He's like, hey, we're motoring through. Please don't stop. Fetterman stops, or whoever that guy is.
I asked you about this news that Speaker McCarthy
Look, he's like, can we just keep going?
has formally launched an impeachment or has said he's going to.
Oh my God, really? Oh my gosh,
He's saying
it's devastating.
we should.
Ooh, don't do it. Please don't do it.
Let's go.
Oh no, oh no.
we gotta run back to the office.
We got to go. Okay, that's a United States Senator responding to what the House has done. And all right, well, that's what's going on over there. Now, we also have more reaction from Chuck Schumer. And this is a fun one. Chuck Schumer using some language that we're all very familiar with here because the Democrats have been prosecuting their opponents for a long time. Now, when the Republicans have one little inkling of a response, when they're like, maybe we should respond and just acknowledge it with an inquiry, they have a meltdown.
I think the impeachment inquiry is absurd. The American people want us to do something that will make their lives better, not go off on these chases and witch hunts. The bottom line is, as we've said,
the witch hunt.
you can only accomplish keeping the government open in a bipartisan way. I have sympathy with Speaker McCarthy. He's in a difficult position. But sometimes you got to tell these people who are way off the deep end, who have no interest in helping the American people, who just want to pursue their own witch hunts, that they can't go forward with it. So I'm disappointed. I think it's absurd. But we are not going to let it stop us here in the Senate from keeping the government open and working in a bipartisan way.
It's like he's talking about himself, right? And he's very offended that the Republicans would even think about asking questions about what his political party is doing. You're only allowed to open inquiries and investigate and subpoena and do the other things if you are a Democrat going after Republicans. But now it's a witch hunt. And, by the way, we don't want the government to make our lives better, quite frankly, because every time the government has ever attempted to do that, they screw it up. So really, the idea is the government gets out of the way, just gets out of the way and lets us just live our lives and will make the world better. The government screws it all up. But he is now upset that the possibility that his party is under the microscope, under scrutiny, is a witch hunt. They're allowed to do it, but the Republicans cannot do it back. And isn't it good for the country to have your corrupt president no longer in charge, being blackmailed and extorted and trading American interests for financial gain for his son and his family? Probably a good thing to move on past that. Now, some people very unhappy about this impeachment inquiry. They're saying it's just smoke and mirrors. It's all just nonsense designed to distract us, and that Kevin McCarthy was about to get the boot because people in Congress were unhappy with him for breaking his deal to other people in Congress. We remember that when he was nominated and elected to be Speaker of the House, there was a big battle over that. A lot of questions, and he had to cobble together support from various different groups in order to make it happen. Well, Matt Gaetz says they got gypped, man. They were supposed to be a deal, and there is no deal. And so he says now there will be repercussions.
On this very floor in January, the whole world witnessed a historic contest for House Speaker. I rise today to serve notice. Mr. Speaker, you are out of compliance with the agreement that allowed you to assume this role.
Yeah, Kev.
The path forward for the House of Representatives is to either bring you into immediate total compliance or remove you pursuant to a motion to vacate the chair. We have had no vote on term limits or on balanced budgets as the agreement demanded and required. There's been no full release of the January 6 tapes, as you promised. There has been insufficient accountability for the Biden crime family, and instead of cutting spending to raise the debt limit, you relied on budgetary gimmicks and rescissions so that you ultimately ended up serving as the valet to underwrite Biden's debt and advance his spending agenda. Mr. Speaker, you boasted in January that we would use the power of the subpoena and the power of the purse. But here we are, 8 months later, and we haven't even sent the first subpoena to Hunter Biden.
Where is it?
That's how you know that the rushed and somewhat rattled performance you just saw from the Speaker isn't real. At this point, during Democrat control over the House of Representatives, they had already brought in Don Jr. 3 times. And we haven't even sent the first subpoena to Hunter Biden.
Yeah.
Power of the subpoena and power of the purse. Only thing the 118th Congress is known for at this point is electing Kevin McCarthy Speaker and underwriting Biden's debt. And unfortunately, there's only one of those things we can remediate at this time.
Whoa, man, that's a burner right there. They did. They underwrote Biden's debt. They just spent a ton of money, and I don't really know what else they've done. I mean, look, to be fair, we have read a lot of letters here, right? We like reading letters here. So, hey, Matt, we've read some letters, okay? They're writing a lot. They're writing a lot of stuff. But he's right about this. The Democrats, they play with a different level of fervor, don't they? They'll do whatever they can to win, including knifing whomever in the back they got a knife. And Matt Gaetz is saying maybe we should start playing with a little bit more intensity. Why? Because this might all be smoke and mirrors. In fact, this came over from Breitbart, and Joel Pollack, who does good work over there, he said the following. He says, this is a problem because McCarthy is not asking for a vote. Why was there no vote today? The problem, says Joel, Republicans argued during the first impeachment with Trump, the Democrats could not use Congress to subpoena the White House until the House voted to authorize the inquiry, right? So we just had this. So when Pelosi said impeachment inquiry has been launched, Republicans said it was not a full House vote, so therefore it's illegitimate. Trump used that to defend against the charge that he obstructed Congress by refusing to comply with subpoenas that was not formally authorized by the vote. So he says there is ample precedent for the idea that Congress has limited subpoena powers against the White House when it's doing legislative work. But when they're doing impeachment work, then they get sweeping subpoena powers after the impeachment is authorized. Breitbart did the digging on this. There was a Supreme Court case, Trump versus Mazars, and there was another D.C. Circuit case where Judge Naomi Rao wrote a dissent, which means it's not part of the majority, but she distinguished. She says she distinguished between the more limited powers of a congressional committee when it's doing legislative stuff and more expansive powers when it's doing impeachment. The Supreme Court largely agreed with Rao in limiting subpoenas in a later case in 2020, right? So in other words, Congress is not going to have a lot of teeth to their subpoenas right now because it's not been fully authorized. Now, that doesn't mean that it doesn't get fully authorized later. Congress, I would imagine, it could always come back and they could go to those different, there's still a handful of Congress people that still don't get it for whatever reason. And they could always go to them, or their constituency could put enough pressure upon them to get them animated such that they vote, or put pressure on their representatives such that they vote for impeachment. So Joel says the whole point of launching an impeachment inquiry is to use subpoena powers to investigate Biden and the business deals. DOJ has not done that so far. But announcing an inquiry without a vote to authorize one means that Congress can issue subpoenas, but that the White House probably just going to ignore them. Regardless, unless there's a formal vote to authorize the impeachment inquiry, Republicans are probably going to find that they're in the same position that Democrats were in 2019. Meanwhile, the Biden White House can refuse to comply and court fights will be set up, and they're going to drag out the inquiry process for years. Joel says, meaning there will be no accountability. So we'll see now, there's multiple steps to this thing. Maybe McCarthy and Marjorie have got a different plan in store for us. But this is what Marjorie said when she was asked about this outside of Congress.
To clarify, is the inquiry open right now? Or is there a vote that's going to be taken in the House of Representatives? What do the next steps look like?
That's a great question because there's some confusion. There's two ways to open an impeachment inquiry. The House can take a vote, or the Speaker of the House can announce and start and open the investigation. He can open the impeachment inquiry. That was a precedent set forward by former Speaker of the House Nancy Pelosi, and that's what he chose to do today, and I think it was a great, bold move.
Where do you see this ending up? Do you see this ending in removal from office for President Biden? Do you see this going even to a Senate trial, making out of the House of Representatives? What's the ceiling for this?
Well, what I actually want to see is I want to see a very deep dive, a detailed investigation, no matter how long it takes. And it may take months and months. It may go all the way to the November election. What we need to do is we need to investigate Joe Biden. But we also need to investigate the web of people that exist in our federal agencies, the FBI, the DOJ, the CIA, and many others, serving not only in this administration, the former administration, and the one before it, maybe even further. We need to find the people that have covered up Joe Biden's crimes and all of the Biden family's corruption. That's what's most important to me, because I really do believe in gutting the federal government of corruption, and this is the way we can start.
For the average person sitting at home, they see this, they think maybe this is kind of close to the 2024 election. Is this, once for all, is this politically motivated?
Absolutely not. It's not politically motivated at all. And the American people at home know one thing, that they're suffering under the Biden administration with a wide open border, an invasion of illegal immigrants, over 85,000 migrant children missing, over 300 Americans dying every single day from fentanyl. They can't afford their electric bills. They can't afford their gas bills. They can't afford groceries. That's what the American people know, and they know that politicians like Joe Biden, who's been in this place in office for over 50 years, have gotten richer and richer and richer every year they're in office, and they know why. And I'm really excited we're doing this impeachment inquiry because I believe we're going to expose the truth.
All right, she says that they're going to keep digging and digging. She does know the difference between the two votes, or the two types of impeachment inquiries. One is with the Speaker just declaring it, as Nancy Pelosi did. The other is with a full vote. I think that this means that there could always be a full vote, but I don't really know what they're expecting to get. If they know that the strategy from the Biden White House is going to be to just reject them because there's precedent for that, because that's what Trump did, well, then I'm not sure what this is all about, other than it's just maybe to feel good. But if they start sending letters and people start responding to them, right, they could start sending other letters and the White House could respond, I guess. And maybe this will lead somewhere. But curious indeed. Don't know if Kevin McCarthy's just trying to cover himself so that he doesn't get the old boot. We'll see what more reaction has in store. I'm sure we'll see more of this soon from the White House and elsewhere when they react. Of course, we'll continue to cover, my friends. Thank you for subscribing and joining along as we do. And we'll look forward to seeing you on the next one. All right. Now, let's see what the Congress is actually doing, because they are firing off some letters. You know how much we like letters here. James Comer now demanding answers about Joe Biden's firing of Victor Shokin. He, of course, threatened to withhold $1 billion. And then the Ukrainians, they just said, all right, Joe, we'll take care of that prosecutor who's breathing down the neck of Burisma, which is where your son works. And so Comer sent a letter over to the Secretary of State. We know him, Antony Blinken, same guy who colluded with the CIA to create the fake letter of the so-called 51 intelligence experts who tried to spread literal disinformation to America about the truth of the laptop. So Blinken was working with the CIA back then. Questions for Blinken now that he's in charge of the Secretary of State position. What was the State Department doing with Ukraine? And why was Shokin fired? Because we're finding out now that people thought Shokin was doing a great job. He was just investigating the wrong corruption, Hunter's corruption, Burisma's corruption. And so before we get into the letter, this is a nice timeline, courtesy of the Oversight Committee, explaining what happened here. A brief refresher of the timeline of the events that led up to the firing of Victor Shokin, the Ukrainian prosecutor. Joe Biden was vice president at the time, in charge of being a liaison to Ukraine to go investigate Ukrainian corruption, blah, blah, blah. April 2014. Hunter Biden joined Burisma and was paid approximately $1 million per year, okay? $83,333 a month. February 10th, about a year later, Victor Shokin is elevated to lead office of the Prosecutor General. He's in Ukraine during an ongoing international investigation focused on corruption surrounding Burisma, the same company that Hunter joined in April. September, months later, the Interagency Policy Committee, a task force created to advise the Obama White House on whether Ukraine had cleaned up enough corruption to warrant more Western money. The Obama committee asserted that Shokin, the prosecutor, had made sufficient progress in combating corruption to warrant a third loan, another $1 billion. Shokin did great. And we know this now on the record. Obama's own people, the Interagency Policy Committee, they investigated it, said Shokin's great. November 5th, 2015, Vice President Biden then participated in a call with the Ukraine president then, Poroshenko. And he said, and it provided no indication that the United States policy about Ukraine required the dismissal of Shokin, all right? So Biden hops on a phone call. Shokin doesn't come up at all. Late 2015, Burisma's corporate secretary named Vadim Pozharsky, he was pushing Hunter. He says, we need help. We're under investigation from Ukrainian prosecutors. We need help from the United States government. Pressure Zlochevsky. He says, we're facing pressure from the Office of the Prosecutor General. Victor Shokin's office is breathing down our necks. Hunter, please help. Hunter's on the board of Burisma. Similarly, the removal of Prosecutor Shokin suddenly becomes a condition. Joe Biden's over there, and now he says, you got to fire Victor Shokin unless there's the $1 billion, if you want your $1 billion. If he's not fired, you don't get it. December 4th, 2015, Hunter then makes a phone call. He, quote, called D.C. Devin Archer talked about this one. He calls D.C. Hey, Dad, in a private meeting, he's there with Zlochevsky and Pozharsky in Dubai following Pozharsky's request. So the Burisma bros call Hunter. They say, meet me in Dubai. They tell him what's going on. Shokin's breathing down our neck. Can your dad help? He says, yes, let me call. March 2016 then, Shokin is dismissed from his position by the Ukrainian Rada after months of public pressure, most adamantly applied by Biden. And then in 2018, Joe Biden brags about it. He goes and talks at the Council of Foreign Relations, and he says, yeah, that's why I showed up. I said, you're not getting $1 billion unless Shokin is fired. He said, I'll be God, I'll be damned. No, they did fire him. They did it because I threatened American aid because his son put pressure on him. That's the timeline. Now, they're asking the Secretary of State about this. James Comer wants to know what Antony Blinken knows about this. And here is what the letter says. It says, on September 12th, sent over to the Honorable so-called Antony Blinken. And this guy is one of the dirtiest people in government. I mean, he was colluding literally with the CIA to create the Hunter Biden cover-up laptop letter that went out before the election. Arguably, Blinken got to be the Secretary of State because he was such a good lieutenant for Joe Biden and the Democratic corrupt election. And so Congress is saying to him, hey, dear Antony, Secretary Blinken, Oversight Committee is here, and we're investigating Biden's connections to certain international and domestic business transactions and practices, including his family and his associates peddling influence to generate millions of dollars for the fam. The committee asks and seeks information from the State Department, which is you, Blinken, to provide context for certain foreign policy changes that occurred when Joe was vice president? Why did things change all of a sudden? Seems like things were good. Particularly regarding Ukraine, while then VP Joe's son served on the board of a company that was being investigated for corruption. The committee requests information from the State Department regarding Joe's actions and his decisions from Ukraine. They say specifically, the committee seeks information about the State Department's perception of the Ukraine Office of the Prosecutor General, which was at the time headed by Victor Shokin. Their perception. What do you think of the guy? Prosecutor Shokin assumed his position February 10, 2015. He was elevated to lead the Office of the Prosecutor General, right? So this sounds like it's like their State Department. I'm sorry, their Department of Justice. He's sending the letter to the State Department. And he was promoted in the midst of an ongoing international investigation focused on corruption surrounding Burisma. Mykola Zlochevsky was also being investigated, the same guy Hunter met with. In March 2014, a French bank reported that Zlochevsky to UK authorities on suspicion of money laundering after his company tried to move $23 million to Cyprus from their British bank account. Okay, he's being suspected for money laundering. He freaks out in March 2014. April comes by. April 2014, Hunter joins the board. He's paid $1 million per year because he's freaked out. All right, the French, the British know, everybody knows I'm in trouble. I need some leverage. Hunter joins the team. So Congress says the committee seeks to understand the State Department's sudden change in a disposition toward Victor Shokin. What happened in late 2015? On June 11, 2015, the Assistant Secretary of State, look at this woman, we're familiar with her. Back then in 2015, she was just working her way up. She was then the Assistant Secretary of State for European and Eurasian Affairs, and they love their big titles. Victoria Nuland, the same woman who accidentally revealed to Senator Rubio that there are biolabs in Ukraine or something like that. Are there biolabs? She's like, well, kind of. We have a sort of a program there. That's the same woman. She wrote that Prosecutor Shokin, she actually sent a letter to him, to Shokin. She applauded his office's progress in anti-corruption efforts. You're doing a great job, Victor. Keep it up. In September 2015, then the U.S. ambassador to Ukraine, this guy, Jeffrey, he publicly stated about Shokin, he says, quote, "We want to work with Prosecutor Shokin. So the Prosecutor General's office is leading the fight against corruption." Again, you're doing a great job. Also in September, the Interagency Policy Committee, the one that Obama created, asserted that Shokin had made significant progress in combating corruption such that he deserved the $1 billion. Yeah, you've earned it. Great job. So it's like three different things. Everybody says he does a great job. But on November 5th, Vice President Biden participated in a phone call, and on that phone call, he provided no indication that Shokin was a problem on November 5th. So we're getting closer. But something happened. By late 2015, the removal of Shokin somehow suddenly became a condition of the loan. Why? What changed between November 5th and late 2015? In March 16th, boom, Shokin was dismissed from his position after months of public pressure applied by Biden. The timing of these events is notable, says Congress. During the committee's transcribed interview with Devin Archer, a longtime Biden family associate, Archer explained that by late 2015, Pozarski, Burisma's corporate secretary, was increasingly pushing for Hunter to get help from Daddy to pressure Zlochevsky about the pressure Zlochevsky was facing from Shokin everywhere. Archer also testified that on December 4th, Hunter called D.C. in a private meeting with Zlochevsky and Pozarski in Dubai. Now, December 4th, that phone call is nestled in right near the end of 2015, okay? By late 2015, something happened. Now it became a condition. On November 5th, there was no problem there on the phone call. 1 month later, there was all of a sudden. Guess why? On December 5th, by late 2015, I don't know what date that was, it suddenly became a condition. Phone call happened on the 4th. Therefore, the committee is now investigating. Here's what they want. All documents and communications, Antony, including transcripts and notes made over the course of the phone calls between Vice President Biden and Ukrainian officials from 2014 to 2016. Biden and Ukraine. Give us the transcripts. All documents between State Department employees and Blue Star Strategies regarding Ukraine or Burisma. So who was talking to this LLC? Documents for all these people. John Kerry. Oh. I think his son's got something to do with all this too. Victoria Nuland, Amos Hochstein, Jeffrey Piat, Sherman, Shannon, and a bunch of others. Burisma people, including Zolchevsky, Pozarski, Shokin. The Office of the Prosecutor General, Eric Sherwin, Biden crime family, Devin Archer from the same, and Hunter Biden. All the documents from the State Department. Victoria Nuland also makes that list, as she should. All documents and communications from the State Department and the Executive Office of the Presidency, same people listed there. All documents related to the $1 billion loan, and all documents going to or from the U.S. Embassy about the loan. We've got a lot of questions about this for you. We're looking forward to your answers. Signed by James Comer. He says, sincerely, your friend, James Comer. Send this document and these materials over to our Committee on Oversight and Accountability out of the House of Representatives. So that's Comer. Now, is Antony Blinken going to give him any of that? Good question. We know how this goes. It's a letter, it's another letter, and then it's often a threat for a subpoena, then it's a subpoena, and we'll see if this is something that they continue to investigate. But the timeline there is quite nice. Hunter makes a phone call. Suddenly everything changes. Certainly circumstantial evidence there that you could say, well, you can infer that it was good until it changed. And we've got other evidence to support that claim, including witnesses like Devin Archer, who have direct evidence about the phone call that Hunter made. Who did he call? Now, every time that Hunter's lawyers identify somebody who might be investigating them, they start harassing them. And one thing that they have to their advantage that a lot of other people don't have is that their daddy is running the Department of Justice. And so we know that even when the IRS whistleblowers were speaking out about this, Hunter's lawyers were trying everything they could to deviate them and to harass them, to stop them from speaking out. So Congress also sent a letter now, this time, to the Honorable Merrick Garland, U.S. Attorney General, over at the Department of Justice. And they're saying, we've got questions about your Department of Justice and how you were interfacing with Hunter and how Hunter's lawyers were threatening your own prosecutors that work for your boss, which is Hunter's dad. Here who sent the letter. It is coming from Jim Jordan, Jason Smith, and James Comer, the three gentlemen and the three committees that were just appointed to conduct the impeachment inquiry. And so here is what they say to Merrick Garland at the Department of Justice. They say, hey, Mayor, we've been investigating a bunch of stuff lately, and we've got some problems with your so-called commitment to impartial justice, specifically how you handled Hunter's investigation. They say Hunter's legal team currently is engaged in a brazen effort to intimidate and harass the brave IRS whistleblowers who exposed numerous irregularities in the DOJ investigation of Hunty. These tactics have even included urging the department to prosecute the whistleblowers for their protected disclosures to Congress. They say that they should be indicted for violating tax laws. How dare you talk about Hunter's business? That's a violation of the law. Federal law, says Congress, protects whistleblowers from retaliation, and efforts to intimidate these whistleblowers raise serious concerns about the obstruction of our investigation. So, we request, Mayor, information about any attempts by Hunter's legal team to encourage your department that's run by Joe Biden to take action against the whistleblowers called Gary Shapley or Joseph Ziegler. We know that on June 30th, Abe Lowell, a lawyer representing Hunter Biden, wrote to Chairman Smith. He was basically threatening the House Ways and Means Committee, and we read through that here, if I recall correctly, asserting without evidence that Shapley and Ziegler had violated federal law by making disclosures to Congress. Lowell slandered the brave IRS whistleblowers. He called them disgruntled agents, rude, with an axe to grind. And he said, again, without evidence, that these men were responsible for leaks to media outlets. Lowell implied that at least one of the whistleblowers, Shapley, faced some investigation into his own conduct. You got to go investigate the people who are making Hunter look bad. And guess what? Hunter's daddy runs the Department of Justice. So Hunter's son's lawyers are asking daddy or threatening daddy to go fix this for them. And Merrick, what are you doing about this? As reprehensible as it was for Mr. Lowell to smear these brave whistleblowers, Shapley and Ziegler, it appears from public reporting that Biden's legal team, perhaps including Mr. Lowell, even urged the department to investigate and prosecute them. New York Times had that story. They say Hunter's lawyers have contended that the DOJ, that by disclosing details about Hunter's crimes to Congress, they say that they broke the law and they should be prosecuted. They prosecute their opponents, and then when you commit crimes, the people who blow the whistle on your crimes, they should also be prosecuted along with your opponents. You see how this works? This is America. This is the president's son's lawyers. Additional information indicates that Hunter Biden's attorneys apparently sent a letter to the department asking in writing that it investigate Shapley for allegedly breaking the law, right? We'd like you to investigate Shapley because he's making the president's son look bad. And what did the DOJ do about it? Does anybody know? Maybe they did. Federal law protects IRS employees, allows them to blow the whistle. Shapley and Ziegler followed the appropriate process. They raised their genuine concerns, and they sat for transcribed interviews with Congress. And this is a problem for us. And so that we can investigate you and conduct our oversight, here's what we'd like to see. Any letters or communications from attorneys representing Hunter. We want to hear, what did Christopher Clark say? What did Abe Lowell say when they advocated to prosecute the whistleblowers? What was their letter? What did it include? We want all documents from lawyers representing Hunter and anything related to the prosecution of Shapley, any other lawyers, not just Clark and Abe. Same thing for Ziegler. We want this information by the end of September. And you remember that we are Congress. We've got Rule 10, which says we can do whatever the heck we want, any matter at any time. And we're doing that now. So give us the record. Sincerely, your friends in Congress, Jim Jordan, Jason Smith, and James Comer, all going over to the Honorable Merrick Garland, saying, Mayor, did you comply? Did you investigate Shapley? Did you think whether you could prosecute him or not? Did you open up a case on that? Let us know. We want more information about it. And Congress is also talking more about this. So this was a congressman who was outside in Congress explaining and responding to a question from the media, asked about why this is happening. Is this political? Do you have any actual evidence? Here's the response.
Yes, ma'am. Can I just ask, what actual evidence do you have as opposed to allegations to show to the American public that would merit an actual impeachment inquiry of Joe Biden and prove that today isn't just about some of you?
Oh, I don't know.
McCarthy for the sake of enacting political revenge.
This isn't about political revenge. We have the bank accounts. We can see, ma'am, you can see that the homes that the Bidens own can't be afforded on a congressional or Senate salary. You also understand that it's not normal for family members to receive millions of dollars from overseas interests. Those things aren't normal. That's not normal to have 20 shell companies. These things are not normal, and it alludes to not only just widespread corruption, but money laundering, if not influence peddling itself. And we also have the president, the vice president at the time, on record saying that the prosecutor was fired. Well, son of a bitch, the prosecutor was fired, right? because the
warning.
prosecutor was going after the company that his son was working on. That's what we have. If you can't see that, if you are that blind, look, I'll turn it over to the attorneys.
People can't see that. They think it's political
It's
revenge.
because you don't report on it.
We're here reporting on it today.
I'm not sure how you know what the American people think, but here's what they might wonder.
All right, so you can see there is plenty of evidence, but this is going to be their new talking point. You know, it's just like follow the science, or insurrection, or no court of law found evidence of widespread fraud that would turn over the election, right? All of these things is just a new talking point. Now it's just no evidence, over and over and over. Trust the science, no evidence, no, unprovoked war, unprovoked invasion, unprovoked, right? All blah, blah, blah. So get used to hearing that time and again. Now, we'll see if Congress gets some answers on any of this stuff. I certainly hope they do. Answers about Victor Shokin, answers about the corruption and the obstruction in the DOJ. We'll continue to cover. Thank you for subscribing, my friends, and liking this video wherever it is you're watching this. All right. And we've got one final segment. It's Big Fani. We saved her for last. Oh, gosh. All right, let's get to it. Big Fani Willis, also known as the biggest DA in Georgia, which is why we call her Big Fani, she has been found to have been funneling Trump prosecution cash to her former mentor. And it's a lot of money. We're talking six figures, probably going to be $1 million by the time we get to it. But the gentleman's name is Nathan Wade. He's a special prosecutor, not a government employee. We know that Fani runs Fulton County, the DA's office. Lots of prosecutors, lots of other people that she could hire who are already on the government payroll, getting a government salary, stuff that's already been accounted for. But she chose not to do that. No. Instead, she's funneling this over to this guy, Nathan Wade, and it's hundreds of thousands of dollars. And we've got two articles to try to piece together what's happening here. But we're tipped off on this from Representative Jim Jordan. He says, you know, Fani is reportedly outsourcing work to private lawyers who make hundreds of thousands of taxpayer dollars, all in an attempt to take down Trump. Story from the Washington Examiner, and they talked to a local Georgia attorney. They said, this is certainly unorthodox what's happening here. Questions about this. Why is Fulton County DA Big Fani, why is she paying massive sums to private attorneys for their services? Good question. Well, Nathan Wade is Willis's lead prosecutor in the case, and guess what? He's raked in more than $500,000. Woo! And that's it's about a year and a half, January 2022 to August 2023. So what we would see, this will continue on. And now this is according to payment history. So it's good money. It's good money. That's just one case, okay? And this guy's a defense attorney also. So Christopher Campbell, who's Wade's other colleague at Wade and Campbell, he's been paid $116,000 from April 21 to 2023. And Terrence, another guy, got paid $74,000 from May to June 2022. That's a lot of money, man, for some advice to Big Fani's office. Let's see what else is going on here. Now, Wade, the person who got that big lion's share of it, over $500,000, Wade is a defense attorney who can bill by the hour. And, you know, this is sometimes common, sometimes not common. It depends on the type of lawyer you're looking for. It depends on the jurisdiction, like what state you're in. But when I was representing clients, we charged flat fees. We didn't charge by the hour. It's for criminal defense work. So we would just charge a flat fee. If it's a DUI, you charge this. If it is a Class 2 felony for whatever the type of crime it was, you charge that. And it's a flat fee so it doesn't go up or down. Because the last thing you want to do is start billing somebody and say, well, you can't pay for this bill. We're done with your case. Good luck. You know, we can't represent you anymore because you can't pay your bill. Like the court's not going to let you off the case because they can't pay their fee. So that's how you structure it. There are other instances where you might want to bill by the hour. If it's kind of an open-ended case or if it's a very high-profile case, you might do something like that. But this doesn't seem like it is the standard in Georgia. Now, they say that Wade was handpicked by Willis 2 years ago. I wonder what happened there. Where'd he come from? Now, he was set to serve as a special prosecutor in the Trump case. He is a former Cobb County fill-in municipal court judge who ran for the Superior Court, so going from a city level court into a county level court. He was a judge, tried to move up, as it were, and was defeated. 2012, 2014, 2016. Willis chose Wade over career prosecutors who otherwise work on salaries. And while the legalities of that have not been questioned, like no doubt she can do this, right? Some, like Phil Holloway, who's an Atlanta-based attorney for more than 2 decades, he said, this is a little bit unorthodox, quote. It's certainly unorthodox, and it appears to be a cash cow for any lawyer paid by the hour. Yeah, totally. They're just sitting there. They're like just racking it up. They're at dinner. What do you think of the Trump case? I don't know, but that's legal research. We should definitely write that down. Probably want to write this bill off too. Add it all up. He says, Holloway in Georgia says, I've been practicing criminal law in Georgia for 24 years, and I've never seen such an arraignment. It's like just the candy store is open and the kids are just going hog wild. Willis, who began investigating Trump in 2021, indicted Trump, which we know all about. We know that Schaffer, we talked about this story, one of the co-defendants actually got a solicitation from Nathan Wade. And we did a full video on this. If you missed this, certainly go back and look this one up. But Nathan Wade sent a solicitation, the lawyer, he's normally a criminal defense lawyer. He's doing special prosecution now because Big Fani's paying him $500,000 to do it. And he is sending solicitations to people he's prosecuting, which is obviously a major conflict of interest and just a pretty reprehensible thing to do. He's like sending a defendant who he's charged with a crime. I can help you get free. I'm a great lawyer. The prosecutor is sending you insulting letters like this. David Schaffer impersonating a public officer. Hire my law firm, the same law firm that's prosecuting you. Maybe he does hire them and say, are you threatening me? Are you going to put me in prison if I don't hire you? You can see how you might misinterpret this. But this is something that was sent. Now, Willis did not respond to any questions, any responses to requests for comment on this. Other people have found these payments troubling, particularly when what others have described to be a massive backlog of cases. A person familiar with the DA's office told the Examiner that he believed the payments to Wade and others were not getting the play that it should in the media. Why is someone who is already on the government payroll not handling this? There are many other prosecutors. They could easily go get another Attorney General's office prosecutor. If Fani's office needs somebody because of a conflict or they need external resources, there's tons of other prosecutors. The person who otherwise spoke highly of Willis and called her smart as hell said that the use of Wade doesn't feel right and that these are the taxpayers that are footing this. Very strange. Willis brought Wade on only months after several other candidates turned her down. The outlet did not specify which she attempted to bring on, noting that Wade was an old friend of Willis's. Okay, Wade was a, quote, old friend of Willis's. Wade also mentored Willis when she briefly served as the magistrate judge in South Fulton. So she was also a judge at one point, and there's more from the Atlanta Journal-Constitution. And I was reading this earlier today, and there was an excerpt down here. And this was a story on the solicitation that was sent to David Schaffer, but more on the relationship between these two. That's Schaffer, who got served with the solicitation. But here, Wade has been a top deputy. This guy who's got paid $500,000. Wade has been a top deputy to Fani Willis since last year. Prior to this, he led the DA's presentations. So he actually did some work on this. He led the DA's presentations to a 23-member special grand jury. It spent nearly 8 months hearing witness testimony and collecting other evidence for Willis. So he got paid $500,000. His law firm probably $600,000, $700,000 for doing some of this work. On Wednesday, he argued on behalf of the DA's office before the judge. He was a former judge in Cobb County. They say Wade is an old friend of Willis who mentored her. Before serving as a special prosecutor, Wade advised Willis after she was elected and began staffing up her department. All right, so Wade is like her mentor. She got elected and he says, hire all these people. So she brought him back in. And when this story was written, over $500,000 since January 2022. So a lot of money being funneled from Big Fani's office to some of her mentors, some of her friends as the prosecution continues. And boy, they did a lot of prosecuting. In fact, some of their prosecution looks like it's a little bit nuts, because when we take a look at the full grand jury proceeding, we see that a bunch of people got charged or were recommended for indictment that were never indicted. So why did the grand jury want to indict all of these people? Why did Big Fani decline to indict them if she is really interested in solving all of this Democratic corruption? The grand jury said a bunch of people should have been charged. They weren't charged. Is she an insurrectionist now? Let's see what this says. This is the order entering special purpose grand jury, the final report into the record. And so the judge finally said, all right, this is where we get some more information that we hadn't previously seen, filed out of Fulton County in the state of Georgia. Now here's the exhibit. And they tell us that the grand jury was impaneled here. This is what led to the Big Fani charges. We had 26 Fulton County residents and alternates. We were supposed to investigate specific facts, different things around the 2020 elections. We got evidence, and this is what Nathan Wade is working on this entire time, 75 witnesses, majority of which were delivered in person and under oath. We had district attorneys involved and everybody. The following is the report from the grand jury. We set forth for the court our recommendations on indictments. We're going to see different columns, yay, nay, and abstain. And we're going to see a bunch of different people listed. The grand jury heard extensive testimony on fraud from poll workers, investigators, technical experts, and so on. And here is what they are concluding. We find by a unanimous vote that no widespread took place that could result in the overturning of the election. Okay, that's that key catchphrase that is just scripted and everywhere. And this was that phrase that we kept hearing would move. Okay, remember that they said, you need all of these parts. They said there was no fraud. And we said, okay, there's clearly fraud all over the place. They said, okay, well, there's no widespread fraud. And they said, okay, we said yes, there is. There's widespread fraud all over the place. They said, okay, you're right. There was fraud. Now there was widespread fraud. But there was no widespread fraud that could result in the overturning of the election. And then that's where they hung their third hat on. And that they found that was found in no court of law, right? Even though that question was not asked in most of the cases in the courts of law. But that's the same. They copy and pasted that right out of Liz Cheney's notebook. With respect to January 2nd, they're coming to their conclusions. Phone call from President Trump to Raffensperger. They find the following individuals. Trump committed the following crimes, right? This is what the report says. 21 people, yay, yay, yay. 18, yeah. No, we got abstentions on this charge, whatever they are. I don't know what all the statutes are. But we have one guy who's voting no across the board, right? One holdout on the grand jury on that one. They also seek Cleta Mitchell, and you see same type of thing here. Now, Trump and Giuliani get charged here, 17-1, with various charges. And then this is in section 3 about the Georgia legislature, State Farm Arena video. And they're seeking indictments against 21 people. We know there were only 19 co-defendants in here. So some people were not charged. Asking questions about Ruby Freeman. They want these people indicted. And then we see this big long list here of all of these other names. My goodness, big long list here. This one was about the Republican electors. They want 21 people indicted here. Bunch of names that we recognize. Some of these people were indicted, but not all of them. And as we continue on, we see the same pattern happening. Now, there's one big chunk of indictments that they recommend. Look at this one. We have, with respect to the national effort to overturn the election, we want 21 people here charged. This is coming out of Georgia conduct, Arizona, Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania. Anybody involved in the national effort to overturn 2020. Look at all these people. They said that people like, so these people were charged. We know Mark Meadows was charged, Jenna Ellis was charged, Trump was charged, Chesebro, Eastman, Giuliani. But look at these other names here. Michael Flynn. He hasn't been charged. 20 yeas, 1 no. Why did he not get charged? David Perdue. He was running for Senate. Kelly Loeffler, same thing. She was running for Senate. 17 yeas, 4 no's, 14 yeas, 6 no's. So it seems a little bit strange to me. I mean, if Big Fani is so ultra concerned about the RICO conspiracy and she trusts the grand jury, and the grand jury wants all of these other people indicted, including senators who are running for Senate in Georgia, why did she not indict them? That feels strange. The grand jury said that they were criminal, but she decided not to. Lynn Wood, also, 20 yeas. And look, Lindsey Graham, another sitting United States senator, 13 yeas, 7 nays. They wanted to go after everybody, right? Take out every Republican who even thought about questioning the election. Look at all these names here, 30 people, okay? 30 people, and then, that's 30 people right there. And it goes on. So maybe another 30, actually, these were kind of splits. This was split here. So these, like, you might scratch out, all right? 9 yeas, 9 no's. So no on all of those. So I can see why they wouldn't charge those. But certainly these, 27 of these people, why were they not charged? There are only 19 co-defendants. Bunch of people didn't get charged. Weird. I wonder why that is. So in conclusion, we want to thank the hardworking staff. Any legal errors should not be laid at their feet. This report contained no election law. They used their best efforts, signed by the foreperson of the jury. So it's interesting. And Big Fani just decided not to charge all those people. And the question is why? And I think the question is because she knows that charging those people would be nuts. She's not charging Lindsey Graham and the other senators. So if it's insane to charge those people, like Lindsey Graham and the other senators and all of the people that were listed in there, why should we presume that the people who were indicted are legitimate indictees? We shouldn't. The grand jury was full of psychopaths, and we listened, well, not all of them. I can't say that about all of them. Maybe there was that one guy who was a nice person. Of course, he voted no on those. But the other lady was like very excited that they were going to like indict people, and she was kind of like nuts. And we listened to a bunch of videos of her, like a lot. And that was the people, that was the group of people who were responsible for this. And Fani obviously exercised some discretion. She said, these people are all, obviously can't charge them, but decided that she could pick the people that she wanted to charge in order to make her case. So Lindsey Graham escapes some criminal indictment. He's very excited about that. But he gets asked about this. Are you still going to be supporting Trump now that you have not been big fanied like the rest of them?
You've hitched your wagon to Donald Trump and his party, and you've been pulled into this because you follow him. Are you still hitching your wagon to the Donald Trump?
You know, I think a lot of this efforts is try to marginalize Donald Trump as a political figure. But what I am trying to tell people, that the election was contested by President Trump and others, and I had to vote. And I did my job to figure out what's best for me as a senator, how to vote, whether or not I should have a hearing. But there are many people in this country believe the law has become a political weapon. We'll see what happens in these cases. At the end of the day, it's over for me. But what I do worry about is if this becomes the norm, then it's going to be very difficult for this country to move forward, where you have county prosecutors that can then bring charges, potentially bring charges
it's the new
against
America,
federal
Lindsey.
officials who are clearly doing their job. But one thing I want people to know, I am standing with President Trump. I am proudly supporting him. He can be a handful at times, but I thought he was a good president. And I'm not going to be deterred campaigning for him and working with him. The legal process will move forward. and we'll see what happens in the courts, but we'll also see what's going to happen at the ballot box. So I will continue to lend my support to President Trump.
The courts are going to be a big problem. The ballot box is probably also going to be a big problem. We're going to have to work very hard to have overwhelming numbers, and of course, we're going to do that. But Graham says he's still supporting Trump, and I think he's right to be concerned about this. This is the new America. This is the new tactic. They started it. They did it 4 times, and they're just warming up, I think. So that's Graham. He's happy about this. Meanwhile, Rudy Giuliani is trying to get his case severed. We know that there is a trial scheduled in Big Fani's courtroom for October 23rd, and Rudy does not want to be a part of it. He submitted this motion for severance and a continuance, short filing by Rudy. He says, comes now, the Rudy, and he says, my client was indicted on August 14th, 2023, along with 18 co-defendants in another indictment. This was scheduled for an arraignment on September 6th. Rudy pled not guilty, waived his arraignment. Prior to the arraignment, 2 other co-defendants we know well, Kenneth Chesebro and Sidney Powell, we've read their filings here, they want a speedy trial, and so the case is scheduled for October 23rd. The court set a scheduling order for both of them, Chesebro and Powell together. Currently, Rudy says the defendant has received no notice from the court that his case will be tried on October 23rd, nor has he received a scheduling order for any pretrial matters in this case. Rudy has opted into discovery to get access to the evidence and filed preliminary challenges to the indictments pending against him. But Rudy has not filed for a speedy trial. Nonetheless, to the extent it is necessary, Rudy moves this court to sever him from the trial so that he can continue his trial date, postpone it further out. Rudy says, we've not received more than 2 terabytes of discovery, nor have we seen a complete list of the 150 witnesses in this case that they're going to call at trial. 150 witnesses. Oh my gosh. What a joke. As such, Rudy is not and cannot be prepared to try this case on October 23rd. They're going to bring in 150 witnesses for Sidney Powell and Kenneth Chesebro. Upon receipt of discovery, they say that Rudy will be able to determine whether additional severance motions will be filed about the various counts with the remaining 16 co-defendants in the case. And so, Judge, separate us out, sever the case so that he can proceed on his own. We'll see if the judge does it. So far, the judge has not been severing. I think we'll see what the judge says. Now, we also have one final update. This one's coming out of New York. Judge Juan Merchan in the Alvin Bragg prosecution has decided to postpone the trial. Now, we know that they're setting this up to have maximum impact in 2024 during the presidential elections. We've got trials scheduled for March, right before Super Tuesday in the January 6th case. But we have to jockey around the different positions. So who goes first? Typically, federal courts are going to have precedent, and the state level prosecutors are deferring to their judgment. This is the judge in New York doing that exactly. He says, hey, Mr. Blanche, Trump's lawyer, I write as a follow-up to your August letter and our emails. In light of many recent developments involving Mr. Trump, this is the judge speaking, and Trump's rapidly evolving trial schedule, which is weaponized political prosecution by the Dems, I do not believe it would be fruitful for us to have this conference on September 15th coming up to discuss scheduling. Rather, I've decided to adhere to the existing schedule. We can discuss scheduling and make necessary changes when we next meet on February 15th, 2024 for decisions on motions. We'll have a much better sense at the time if there's any actual conflicts and what the best adjourn date might be for trial. So it sounds like they're going to defer. They're going to default, let the other trials go first out of the special counsel's office, and then they'll just reschedule that for maximum impact whenever they need to do that. So that's the latest update out of New York. Big Fani sending tons of money to her friends. Rudy's still fighting his case, and the grand jury shows really how nuts this entire case is. Of course, my friends, we're going to continue to cover as this evolves. I hope you subscribe and join us as we do, because we'll be looking forward to seeing you on the next one. All right, my friends. Well, we covered some good ground today. That is it for us. We got Big Fani funneling $500,000 to her former mentor, whatever that means. James Comer is investigating Victor Shokin and the firing of Victor Shokin by Joe Biden. Why did he just on his own decide that it was time for him to go? And Kevin McCarthy announces an impeachment inquiry. We'll see if it goes anywhere, but hey, at least it is something. Of course, we are going to now see what you have to say about all of this, my friends, from our friends at watchingthewatchers.locals.com, our friends on YouTube, our friends on Rumble. I appreciate all the lovely and generous donos coming in on this amazing Tuesday. And we're starting off with Adesia. And this was from this morning. Adesia sent this one in. Thank you, Adesia. Saying, love me some Rob G. Love me some Rob G. Love me some Adesia in the house. Thank you, Adesia. That was this morning. We've got swear jar. We got the swear jar. Yeah, a couple swear jars today. Thanks, V, for the reminder on that one. We've got Catherine Rex is here. Says, I have arrived. Hi, Rob and mods. Hi, Tube fam. What's up, Catherine Rex? Welcome to the show. Shout out to the mods and shout out to the Tube fan and shout out to Catherine Rex. Thanks, Catherine. I'm glad you made it. Hopefully you're having a beautiful day. Rick Gregory gifted a membo. Thank you, Rick. Rick is a membo and gifted a membo. Michael K coming in courtesy of Rick G. Thank you, Rick. Rick, here's another one. Bringing in, thank you, Rick Gregory. Bringing in What About Me, Gloria B, Karen A, The Realm, and Jerry M coming in. Thanks to Rick Gregory in the house. Rick, thank you so much. We love our members. We do member-only morning shows. We do Saturday shows for our members. We love our members, and thank you for doing that, Rick. And it's nice to see you. Thanks for stopping by and supporting us. Catherine Rex also made a gift, gifting in Linda H coming in, courtesy of Catherine Rex in the house. Thank you, Catherine, and thank you, and welcome, Linda, on the house. We got Glenn Croy also bringing in new members. We're going to have some seriously serious new members coming up. Glenn Croy bringing in One Voice, Randall S, Actually in America's coming in, Captain Flatastic, and James Fitch brought in. Thank you to Glenn Croy. Thanks, Glenn, for doing that. Man, we're going to be busy. Dolphin Fan is the man is bringing in another 5. Thank you, Dolphin. Man, we've got Lactonic, Jamar, Katie K, Honey Bear, and Chase J all coming in. Thank you to Dolphin Fan is the man. And I think, man, this we like our members only morning stream tomorrow is going to be lit. We've got Catherine Rex. 5 more membos coming in. We got Michael M, Mimetic M, Mike, Angie W, and Beautifully Inappropriate all coming in courtesy of Catherine Rex. Man, thank you, Catherine, for doing that. Our members only morning stream is going to be a lot of fun tomorrow. It's going to be lit, my friends. Thanks to our new members. A Bad Poet says, the day after the 1023 should have been an inquiry. The day after the FBI denied the 1023 should have been an inquiry, or the day after we knew about it. The FD 1023 was that thing we really fought a lot about. And then we actually got the information on that when Chuck Grassley released it. And that started to open up the box a little bit. Yeah, we'll see. I mean, we'll see where it goes. If they do this impeachment inquiry and they can't actually inquire, that's not going to be very interesting, is it? They just send a bunch of letters and then we wake up and they're like, oh, they all got rejected. Andrea Cummings in the house. What's up, Andrea Cummings? Good to see you. Thanks for being a member. Or thanks for being a member and for the nice dono. Your very first super chat here on our channel. We're grateful that you are here and with us on this lovely day. Says another one from Andrea, says, my Marco Polo book arrived and OMG total craziness. I didn't know how deep it went. Yes, I love that, Andrea. That's my reaction too. All right. So Andrea sharing her experience on reading this book. And this is the Marco Polo report, marcopousa.org. You can buy your own copy of it. I've got 2 of them. And it's a great, it is that reaction. I gifted this book one time to somebody who's, I don't want to tell you who I gifted it to. I've talked about him before, but I don't want to tell you who it is because it's like, he probably wouldn't want me to tell you that. But when I gave it to him, He flipped through it and his jaw dropped wide open. And I said, yeah, that's the Hunter laptop. He's like, huh? What? He couldn't even believe it. It actually will make people uncomfortable, okay? If you give it to people and they flip through it, it will make them physically uncomfortable because of how disgusting it is. So shout out, Andrea. I'm glad that you got it. I'm glad you're supporting Marco Polo. And welcome to the disgusting nightmare that we've all seen now. Voice says, that is not Fetterman. The facial hair isn't there. The brow structure isn't as pronounced. And he can actually understand what's said to him. That's another good one. Yeah. The facial, let me, since we're here, hey, since we're talking about it, let me see if I saw a side-by-side comparison of Fetterman on Twitter. Let me see if I can just find it real quickly. And yeah, it does not look like the same dude. These people's facial structures totally change. And I don't know if I can find it because it's all just the regular clip of him. Yeah, somebody did a side-by-side on it, and it's it almost doesn't look like the same dude. All right, maybe somebody can find that if you've seen it. I can't dig it up right now. But anyways, yeah, voice, super funny, and it's a good question. And he actually did respond. He's like, oh, I can understand English here. That's how you know. That's the tell. Peng is here. What's up, Peng? Gifting one membo. Doug R. coming in. Thank you to Peng in the house. Welcome, Doug. A lot of fun. We've got SD 1985. What a nice year. Says, I smell quid pro quo with Big Fani. Somebody should impeach her. It sounds like she's insurrecting the taxpayers of Georgia by delivering it to her mentor, whatever that means, whatever that means. And so $500,000 going back into his pockets for prosecuting Trump and then sending defense attorneys, defendants solicitations. What a nice gig. Fred says, Rob, seriously, can these people be any more dirty? Probably, unfortunately, probably. And they're probably going to get dirtier as the days go by, probably. We've got Catherine Rex says, I'll get crazy girls' numbers for you, Rob, LOL. Perfect. That's great. That's perfect. I love crazy chicks. Yeah, love them. Love them, history of some of them. We've got Jigum in the house says, who's clipping? I think Viantikis is clipping hard for us today. Thank you, V. V is clipping away, and there's V asking us to smash that like button, baby. Certainly like to smash that like button. I think that's Viantikis drooling because of the bacon. We have a lot of bacon talk happening over at over on Locals. We had this one from Rocky Water. What's up, Rocky Water? Says, Rob, a tip for the Watching the Watchers Island Fund. Rob, you may have missed it while you were talking, but the chat seems to be looking to buy an island and build a new Watching the Watchers civilization. So by the way, I'm on board with this. Okay, this is the long-term plan, all right? And there's a whole book about this, okay, that I recommend many times. It's called The Network State, and it's written by Balaji Srinivasan. And he literally talks about this exactly, not necessarily buying an island, but literally this, okay? What you do is you build your community in the cloud, and then you move the cloud into a physical space. And they don't have to be contiguous, meaning they don't have to all be connected at first. So for example, the North American continent could have a Watching the Watchers community, or Asia could have a community, whatever, right? They're discontiguous. And then they are founded on the cloud. You create your values, your constitution, you codify everything onto blockchain. You built your monetary system on blockchain. It's all codified. And you build your community and you build your state digitally. And then once it's big enough, you can then literally negotiate with nation states and create your physical world. All right. I've thought a lot about this. And there's a great book about it. And Balaji Srinivasan talks about this. And if you think it's crazy, it's really not. There are stories about, I think, billionaires. Some people just dropped $700 million in some new privately a startup city in California. There's people in Arizona who are buying old towns and stuff and just saying, this is my town. Okay, I just bought the town. And think about when Amazon was looking for a new headquarters. Okay, they had literally the negotiating power to go and tell DC what they wanted, or to tell various states what they wanted. We want tax breaks. We want this land. We want this and this. And they were only going to move like 25,000 people, something like that. It's like not even a big number. So you could easily create digital communities that are big enough. Like, how hard is it to amass 1 million people online? Not that hard. And then if you have a good system, a good set of values, you start creating your community, and then go from the world of bits into the world of atoms once you've established trust with one another digitally. It's a very interesting idea. I think we're going to see more of it. I know it sounds far out there, but we're going to wake up in probably 10, 20 years, and we're going to see more versions of privatized living because our government cannot handle it. They are so incompetent. Cities are falling apart all over the place. So people are just going to start buying land and solving the problems for themselves. I think it's going to happen, and it may not happen quickly in everywhere, but it will happen, I think, in certain parts of this world, which is why I think that it's important to focus on two things: allocation of your time, money, resources, your time, attention, money, energy, and your efforts. Where are you allocating your TAMI? And your location, right? Being physically, being cognizant. And if you're not physically mobile now, being cognizant of the possibility of the need to move to a different location that will enable this type of living. So anyways, good thoughts. Also, we should definitely buy an island as well, because that's a great idea. We got this one from Jigum Mighty Clipper. John McGarvey to the rescue. That's John McGarvey on the, oh, here it's the full one. John McGarvey, 323, the mighty memester. Man, look at this photo. Man, that's very regal and impressive. That should be like, John, that should be over your office as soon as you walk in, so everybody can see your glory. Don't Be Hatin' says, to go with the island, donating to the Watching the Watchers yacht, so we get to ride the wave together. I love that too. Yes, we could get a full yacht. Man, we're gonna do so much cool stuff once we really get our nation state in order. It's gonna be the best network state. It's gonna be the best nation in the whole stinking world. It is, truly. And because it's gonna be full of competent people with humanity. It's gonna be great. We got Salty Sarge over on Rumble, says, great work as always, Rob. If you wish, follow the Blue Rabbit to X for a follow-up to yesterday's last rant. Okay, we'll check out X. Yeah, we'll definitely check out X in a minute. And so I'll see you over there, Salty. We got Billy Norton. Welcome, Billy, as a supporter. Amazing. So our new YouTube members, grab the Telegram link. So if you want to join us in the members only after party, we can't do it on YouTube. So join us on Telegram. Go to the community tab section on the channel. Go to Robert Gouveia channel. Go to community, scroll down, grab the Telegram link. It's a private link, and join us for the after party. We'll see you over there, Billy. We got Christian Fellowship Rob's in the house, says Trump Gouveia 2024. President Trump, pick Rob for VP. I stand ready. I stand ready for the call. I'm ready to serve, Trump. Let's make America great again together. All right. I'm waiting. I'm standing by. Red Leader standing by. Catherine Rex says, Rob, my birthday is March 5th. I'll send you my address. Thanks, Catherine. I don't know what you're asking me to send over or what's going to your address. Merch? You looking for some merch? C. John is here, says, thank you, Rob, for everything that you do each for us day in and day out. Thank you, C. John. Been a member for 6 months, 2/3 of a baby, on our way to a full one. And thanks for saying that, C. John. And thanks for being here. Thanks for being a member. Thanks for joining us. Couldn't do any of this without you. And it's a lot of fun. It's better when we do it together. We've got this one over from Mark Owens, has been a member for 9 months, giving birth. Mark Owens. We've got a full baby. What should we name him or her? Mark, that's up to you. Thanks for being a member, and thanks for joining us as a supporter for so long. Hey, All the Marbles, been a member for 1 month, and the first month's the hardest. You know, if you can make it into month 2 and month 3, I think you'll be here for longer. But first month, we're happy you're here. All the Marbles, says Rob, killing it every day. Thanks, All the Marbles. Thanks for joining us. Jigum shared this one. Now, this was not, so I've seen this one. This was not the one that I was thinking of, but although this one is troubling also. Apparently, those are both Fetterman. Okay. Apparently that's both the same guy. There was another one that was today's, and I'll see if I can find it when we have a little more time after in the after party, Jigum. I'll see if I can dig into it again. But we got C. John bringing in 5 new members. We've got C. John bringing in Ms. J, 24/7 Live, AZ Skies in the house. We got Rish G, Johnny Commodi, and David Macy all in the house, invited in courtesy of C. John. Thanks for doing that, C. John. Much, much appreciated. And wrapping up, we've got Radice says, please join Fani's team. You could afford the island. Yeah, maybe. Yeah. Did they need another Trump prosecutor over there? Make $500,000 just making up charges? Sounds like a nice job. We got Kimberly Benedict. What's up, Kimberly? Says, when are they going to reverse the 2012 Obama-Smith-Munt Act that allows media to use propaganda to America? Well, who wants to stop that? I mean, I think only the American people would want that stopped, and they don't really care what we want, do they? I think that they're more interested in what they want, and they love propaganda. I mean, both parties work in cahoots to get it done, and they keep us all in the dark as they continue to propagandize us into oblivion. So thanks, Kimberly, for that one. And that's a first super chat from Kimberly. Thanks, Kimberly. In the house, we've got King Ginger. Says, Rob, please watch the documentary called Loose Change, An American Coup. You can find it on YouTube somehow. It's all about the truth of 9/11. You know what, King Ginger? I've seen that. I watched that when it originally came out. I think there was another one too. Wasn't there like a sequel to that? I've watched a lot of the 9/11 stuff. I've watched a lot of the conspiracy stuff. I like to think outside of the norm, and I think that people raise good questions. I don't believe it all. I think that there's some good questions raised. I think there's some bad questions raised. Good explanations, bad explanations. I think it always comes back to the explanation. Is it good or bad? And some are good, some are bad. But I certainly do not accept the government standard narrative just de facto. That's lunacy. I think that's probably the biggest conspiracy ever. There are people out there that just believe everything the government tells them. Like, really? Are they okay? Somebody should check on them. How do they get through life believing everything the government says? I don't know. Thanks, King Ginger. 51K Boss in the house says, Rocky Water has been posting different ideas on the locals feed, USA 2.0. How do you feel about creating a thread where we can discuss everything our community wants to change and how to make it better? Giving it a deadline, and then we can do a stream dedicated to watching the Watchers USA 2.0. That's an interesting idea, 51K. Maybe that would be like a good members only thing. I don't know that I could like frame that into a topical news show, but it's an interesting discussion show. I'm certainly happy to do that. I mean, I think I love this conversation about restructuring a society. In my take, my hot take on it, right? USA 2.0 should really be a lot like USA 1.0, the original. I think we're on like USA like version 23.7. And it's like, all right, all of you bloated, disgusting software additions, you're all getting uninstalled. All right. We're reformatting, rebooting, and installing the original software, which was perfect until you guys screwed it up. It's called the U.S. Constitution. Anyways, it's a great idea, 51K. I think it would be a good discussion topic. And we could definitely do that. So I love that. And then I'd be curious, if you have any other literature or any other people talking about these ideas, like what are you guys seeing out there about this concept? Because I spend a lot of time thinking about it. I think Balaji is the person who's at the forefront of this. And I think, honestly, that Balaji Srinivasan is kind of like this founding father figure of this digital network state concept. He's a very fascinating guy. So, yeah, it's a good idea. Thanks, 51K. Salty says, a little known fact about Robespierre and his reign of terror. 3 years into it, he offended the people he brought to power and he lost his head. Democratic lackeys do not know history. Yeah, I think, well, I'm certainly, hopefully nobody loses their head over anything. Hopefully we have nice, peaceful transitions of power and everything is amicable. But certainly I think the point is that when you abuse your authority, when you abuse your legitimacy, you wreck your own power. And the people don't take kindly to that, no matter what situation or society you're in. We've got Cindy Banks says, why can't we demand DNA and fingerprints on all these frauds? Well, I think you'd have to charge them with a crime. If you charge them with felonies, you probably could get those things, Cindy. Maybe somebody will charge them with a crime. Rosie Posey says, sorry, maybe this was asked before, but who the heck let those protesters into McCarthy's office yesterday? That's a good question. I don't know how they got in. They definitely insurrected somebody, though, to get into the Capitol. Hopefully they're going to prison, and hopefully they are in solitary confinement in the gulags next to the other insurrectionists. Rob says, building the community, isn't that what's been going on with the people group with no-go zones in the U.S.? And maybe that's what's going on with China buying land in the U.S.? Is Epstein Island for sale? Well, we don't want that island, I don't think. I don't think anybody wants that island, unless you want to burn it down. You have to burn it all down and then just rebuild it. Vientikis has a nice share. He says there's a link to loose change in the Telegram channel. Okay, become a YouTube member or a Locals member today. There's a link to loose change in the Telegram channel. And so thank you, V. That's a nice plug, V. Thank you for writing that up for us. Yes, so join us. If you join as a member, you also get access to the Telegram, right? Private Telegram group where the chat never ends. It just goes on and on, my friends. And so thank you to V. We got Jeremiah 5x5 says, Rob, our money towards the Waterworld style naval coastal defense patrols on Watching the Watchers Island. Great show, Rob. Keep us stoked. Yeah, Waterworld, that was a pretty interesting endeavor, that movie. Yeah. That was pretty hardcore, man. I think that's fine. Like the Raiders, yeah, we could all get sea-doos and just roam around the seas like pirates. I kind of want to be a pirate, yeah. Voice of the People says, we could have a StreamYard meeting for everyone to talk or use the Brave browser meeting for it. To try to get other voices in there. I think we could always use like, yeah, there are some other platforms from that. I don't know how many people you can get in StreamYard. Can you get more than like 9 people in StreamYard? Good idea, voice. Here's another one. Yeah, that's not the one I was thinking of. That guy looks kind of like the same guy. That looks better. Yeah, I'd say that's probably the same guy. There was one on Twitter. I'll try to find it later. And it looked like not good. Okay, so we're going over to X to see who is over there. Say hello to our friends on X before we wrap it up with our members only after party over at watchingthewatchers.locals.com. Is anybody joining us on Twitter right now? We do. We've got 4 people. Oh my goodness, it's about to get rowdy. And we got a couple comments in the house. We got Vientikis over there. He says, there's stuff I'd like to see Trump and Biden spooning in a cell together for, but Team Jackpunks isn't going to prosecute Trump on anything substantial. You mean Biden? They're just going to project whatever crimes they can on him. McCarthy should have said he's using the Pelosi rule. And may Raskin's recovery. Oh, V. We got Fred says, the Georgia foreman, Emily Kors, is literally a Wiccan witch. How did the jurors vote for a creepy witch foreman? Don't have any idea. Charlene says, good show. We got Liz says, any coverage plan for Hunter's civil suit against the laptop repair guy? That's from Liz. And that's a good question. Yeah, that's a good question. We haven't been following that. Let me look into that one. Yeah, Hunter Biden, we cover all the Hunter stuff. So let's see if he is talking about that. Torain says, according to the New York Times, Republicans have found no evidence of financial wrongdoing or corruption, but they said they received enough information to warrant more investigation. The media is weird. The Republicans have found no evidence of financial wrongdoing or corruption. It's like, what are they? I think they're just making it up. We had this one from Bernice says, it's ironic how the Democrats use the Republicans should be helping the American people instead of investigating, but they are guilty of politicking. Pelosi wasted no time pushing lies. At least the Republicans are inquiring about the truth. Nancy Pelosi's fun bags are over there, but I'll spare everybody that image and that horror. And so that is it from our friends over on the X. Thank you, everybody, for the lovely support today. Extremely generous, and I appreciate it. We had this one come in from Catherine. Catherine Rex says, I am captain now. Captain Catfish, from Catherine Rex. And Catherine, I think, also said, hang on a second. This one, yeah. Says, I want the Marco book and merch. I want the Marco book and merch. The Marco book and merch. That's the reason for the address. I've got it. We've got Catherine Rex says, I'm captain now. Captain Catfish. And Voice of the People says, I can have 8 people talking and 250 watching with 12 waiting on mine. Oh, I see. So like you just slot people out, like you just bring people up kind of a thing. Like you give everybody the link and you just bring people up. That's interesting. Yeah, that's interesting. That could be fun. Yeah, let me think about that, Voice. Okay, so another good suggestion from Voice. Thank you for that. And my friends, that is it for us on the day. Thank you, everybody, for the amazing generosity. Very grateful for all of that. We are not quite done yet. We're going over for our members only after party. Heading over to watchingthewatchers.locals.com. YouTube members, make sure you grab the Telegram link and you can join us over on the interwebs there. Yes, this is the one, Vientikis. This is the one. This is the one that I saw today. Yes, this is the clip from him, right? This is February 14th. Good find. February 14th, 2023. Fetterman 1.0. This is Fetterman 2.0, September 12th. It doesn't even look like the same dude. That's Fetterman 1.0. That's Fetterman 2.0. Look, I know people's faces can change. He might be on HGH or TRT or whatever. Or other sorts of medications. You know, your facial features and your structures can change. But certainly looks interesting to me, my friends. And so that was a good one. Thank you, V, for grabbing that one. That was the one that I was thinking of. And so, all right. Well, we'll have to see. Is that Fetterman or not? We'll see what the next person looks like. Yeah, here's another clip, too. Like, look at this one. Oh, man. Weird. Faces change, you know. Faces change. Or maybe it's just an imposter replacement. Okay. So, my friends, we'll leave it there. We are going over to watchingthewatchers.locals.com. We'd love to see you over there. We also want to remind you about our friends at Field of Greens, fieldofgreens.com. You can save 15% off with code Robert. We love supporting our sponsors here. Shout out to the mods and the meme smiths who keep things nice and orderly and beautiful on the show. Our friends Vientikis Prime is here. K-Bean, Just Cause, playing hooky. We've got Ronnie Cole, Zulu, Beyond Geo, Zach Nichols, our friend John Allen, Janek, Dog Digger, Donut, Mind Me, and John McGarvey modding down the fort for us. Our friend Geegum Geegum, Meme Smith Extraordinaire, along with Paul Me No, and our friend Nathan NA10. Meme smithing down the fort for us. But that, my friends, is it for us on the day. We are going to leave it there. We're heading over to watchingthewatchers.locals.com. YouTube members, we'll see you on Telegram. But we'll be back tomorrow to do it all again. It's going to be a lovely Wednesday, and we're going to see what the day has in store for us. Probably a lot of reaction to this impeachment inquiry stuff. And we hope to see you right back here so that together with your help, we can shine that big, beautiful spotlight of accountability and transparency down upon our system with the hope of finding justice. Make it a beautiful night, my friends. Sleep very well. I'll see you right back here tomorrow. Bye-bye.